The Grim Reaper is known as an entity that guides the souls of the dead. The god of death had once announced that any reaper who successfully guides 10,000 souls would be granted a single wish as a reward. After some time, one such reaper stood before the god of death. He asked him if he had finally collected the 10,000 souls. The reaper's name was Kai, and he nodded with a yes. The god of death assured him that he would fulfill his promise and grant him any wish he desired. But Kai's wish, is a shocker, because he requested to quit his job as a Grim Reaper. The god of death was stunned. He explained that quitting being a reaper meant the very reason for his existence would disappear, and his fate would be complete annihilation. But Kai, who was already drowning in extreme exhaustion, calmly replied that such a fate was totally fine by him. On his request, the god of death agreed. And in that moment, Kai's very existence should have completely vanished. But surprise, surprise. Instead, he opened his eyes. He was lying on a bed. A man and a woman were excitedly calling him young Master Seian, overjoyed that he was finally awake. The woman hurriedly said, they must inform the count immediately, while the man checked his condition and asked if he felt any discomfort. Kai looked at Seian's body, white hair, purple eyes, and was completely confused. Wait, didn't I wish for annihilation? Then how on earth am I alive again? To understand what was going on, the scene flashes back 17 years earlier to a dark forest at night. Two armed men cornered a runaway slave mother and her child. One of them said harshly, "If you thought you could escape from us, you're dead wrong." The mother broke down, admitting her fault with tears in her eyes. She explained that her only crime was that she didn't want her child to live the same enslaved life she had endured. She pleaded, "If you want, kill me, but please spare my child." One man coldly said, "Don't worry, we won't kill the child." Then with a cynical smile he added, "Why would we kill him? He's a valuable asset. We'll take him and he'll live the same slavery you did." The mother collapsed, imagining the brutal future awaiting her child. The very child she wanted to give a dignified life. In despair, she prayed with all her might, "God, angel, or even devil, someone, anyone, please save my child." And then, a mysterious man with a majestic presence appeared. He called the mother by her name, Maru. The two soldiers were shocked at his appearance. "Who are you? Who sent you?" they demanded. The man ignored them and politely said he had little time. First he would talk to the lady, then answer them. The soldiers shivered, feeling as if they were standing on the edge of death itself. The mysterious man confidently bypassed the soldiers and walked straight to Maru, who was on her knees, clutching her child. He offered her a deal. He would grant her one wish, but in return he wanted something, her soul. Maru held her child tightly and whispered her final wish into his ear. Hearing it, the man, surrounded by celestial aura, declared, "I understand your desire. The contract is sealed." At that moment, Maru's face relaxed into a peaceful smile. She hugged her child one last time and collapsed lifeless to the ground. The man gently picked up the child in his arms. The soldiers screamed, demanding to know what he was doing. "That child is our property. Put him down and leave immediately," they ordered. But the man, holding the child calmly, replied, "I can't give him to you anymore." The soldiers grew furious. "Then you leave us no choice. You'll have to die." They rushed at him. But before they reached him, they suddenly realized their bodies weren't moving. Frozen in place, horror struck them. The man spoke calmly. "This is the second rule of the Grim Reapers. Anyone who interferes with my work, I have the right to kill." The soldiers panicked. Their own bodies began moving uncontrollably. Terrified, they begged him to stop, but an unseen force compelled them to point their swords at each other, and in moments, they delivered fatal blows, screaming as they fell. The man, still carrying the child, looked back at Maru's lifeless body. From her body, a faint light rose, her soul, ascending to the sky. He muttered, "That's soul number 9999. Then glancing at the child, who stretched his tiny hand toward his face. The man sighed. "What a troublesome wish I've accepted." With that, he left, knowing his time was running short. 16 years later, a young red-haired girl was calling out, "Oh ye, are you home?" From inside, a voice replied, "Yeah, I'm here." The girl's name was Jess, and she entered carrying a basket, complaining, "Kai, why don't you greet me warmly when I come in?" Kai, in his cool tone, replied. Do I look like some old man who can't hear properly? I heard you just fine, even if you call softly. And honestly, greeting you warmly, every single time, is illogical. Especially when you show up several times a day. Jess protested. Anyone else would be happy to see me and welcome me warmly. Kai, unfazed, coldly suggested. Then maybe you should go to them instead. Jess, a bit flustered, said. That's not what I meant. Finally, Jess admitted she just wanted Kai to show her a little more affection. That Kai, he was too busy carving a wooden statue to even look at her, totally ignoring her heartfelt words. Jess plopped herself onto the sofa with a dramatic flop. Kai immediately scolded her. Don't you dare lie down without washing your hands and feet first. Jess groaned. Ugh, you're such a strict person. Kai calmly asked why she had come. Jess explained that her mother wasn't feeling well. Her left arm had been hurting since last night, and the pain didn't go away even after waking up. At this, Kai stopped carving the statue. He promised he would come later to check on her mother. Jess thanked him deeply, expressing her constant gratitude for all the help he gave. Then she mentioned she was heading to the mountains to gather herbs. After Jess left, Kai went to her house. Her mother, whom Kai in his mind called Miu, greeted him warmly and even offered him freshly baked bread. But instead of smiling back, Kai looked at her, and then snapped his fingers. Instantly, the woman froze and collapsed to the floor like a lifeless doll. Kai examined her motionless body and muttered to himself that using cheap wood had been a mistake. The material had already started to rot. He placed his hand on her and began inspecting the decay using a mysterious power. Just then, Jess returned. There she saw him, hovering over her mother's body. Shocked, she asked, "What are you doing?" Kai realized he had made a mistake. He'd been so focused on the repair process that he hadn't even noticed her approaching. Jess assumed he was treating her mother, just like he had promised. Kai nodded and said yes. He had been the one to call her here. Jess was surprised he had come so quickly. Then she noticed something strange. Her mother wasn't there. She pointed to a large doll lying on the floor and said, "That looks just like my mother." In Jess's mind, terrifying threads of truth began to connect. She remembered her mother's arm pain. She remembered what she had told Kai earlier. Hesitantly, she asked, "Wait, is this doll actually my mother?" Kai's silence only fueled her horror. She pressed him again, begging, "Don't tell me this wooden piece is connected to my mother's pain." His silence confirmed it. Panicked, Jess cried out, "So my mother is just a doll." She suddenly realized the horrifying truth. What she thought was treatment was nothing more than replacing parts of a doll. Her terror only deepened as she thought, what if the entire village was like this? She staggered backward, begging Kai to deny it. But Kai decided he could no longer hide the truth. She was mature enough now to understand the logic behind what he had done. He snapped his fingers again, and before her eyes, a horrifying scene unfolded. The truth of the entire village was revealed. Jess gasped in shock. "They're all dolls?" Kai confirmed it. The mother she had known, and every single person in this village, they were all his creations. This shocking confession forced Jess to ask him directly, "Then who are you really?" Kai began to explain. 16 years ago, her mother had made a deal with him, betting her very soul. Her dying wish was simple, that her daughter, Jess, should live a life free from harm. That she should never endure humiliation like her mother had, but instead live surrounded by love. Kai added that he knew, even saints among humans cannot live a life filled only with love. So to honor that wish, he created an entire village, a village designed to ensure Jess would never be hurt. Jess broke down. In despair, she asked, "Does this mean my whole life has been a lie?" She wondered, who could she believe now? Who could she love? Her mother, the villagers, even she herself were nothing but part of a puppet show. In her despair, Jess began to doubt her very existence. Directly, she asked, "Am I also one of your creations? Am I just a doll too?" Kai reassured her, "No, you are not a doll. I built this entire village for you." But Jess could no longer believe him. In a desperate attempt to prove her own reality, she grabbed a dagger and demanded proof that she wasn't a doll. She pressed the blade to her neck and made a small cut. When she saw blood flowing, she finally let out a relieved sigh, confirming to herself that she had always been a real human. Falling into Kai's arms, she asked weakly, "Why? Why did you do all this?" Kai responded with a question of his own. "Was your life until now miserable?" Through her tears, Jess admitted softly, "No, I was happy." But then Jess realized her so-called happiness had been nothing but a lie. How could she accept that everyone she loved was fake? With sorrowful eyes, she looked at Kai and offered to make a deal with him too. "I want to make a deal," she repeated. Kai warned her, "The price of a deal is always your soul." But Jess insisted he move forward. Kai asked, "Fine. What's your wish?" Jess spoke with trembling words, "You're the only real person in my life. If even you forget me, then there'll be no one left in this world who remembers me. So please, I beg you, always remember me. Tell me, is that request too much?" Her words touched Kai deeply. He agreed to the deal and declared the contract is sealed. Jess sighed in relief, thanked him sincerely, and then collapsed lifelessly onto the ground. Her soul became Kai's 100th soul. After Jess's death, Kai burned down the village he had created for her. Without her, the place was meaningless. Just an empty stage for a show that had ended. Flames consumed it quickly. At that moment, Kai noticed the god of death, Shainos, watching him. Shainos remarked how Kai looked unusually sad. He even wondered aloud, "Did you have special feelings for that girl?" Kai quickly denied it. Then he told Shainos to fulfill his promise. Shainos pretended to forget, scratching his head, and then laughed. "Of course I remember." But when he saw Kai's furious face, Shainos grew serious. Kai reminded him he had promised that after guiding 100 souls, he would grant him one wish. Shainos explained that it was just a general rule he made up to boost the efficiency of the Reapers. Still, he agreed to grant Kai's wish and asked what it was. Kai repeated his wish. He wanted to quit his job. Shainos was shocked and reminded him quitting as a Reaper meant total annihilation. But Kai replied calmly, "I've already faced death 10,000 times." When Shainos asked, "Are you tired?" Kai confirmed it. Here, the truth was revealed. Kai was a unique Reaper. Normally, when a human soul becomes a Reaper, all of their memories are erased, transforming them into a grim Reaper. But Kai had retained all of his memory. That difference forced him to take a unique approach, making deals with souls instead of dragging them away by force. He would fulfill their final wishes, so they would peacefully follow him. Even souls who had died unjustly came to accept their fate this way. But carrying all those human feelings constantly drained him. It hurt him. Unlike other Reapers, Kai grew exhausted much faster. Back in the present, Shainos asked him one last time, "Are you sure? Do you want to reconsider?" Kai stood firm. He insisted on his wish. Shainos finally agreed and said he would grant it. Kai thanked him. Shainos warned, "Don't regret it later." Then with a cryptic smile, he said, "Farewell. See you again." Kai frowned, puzzled. See him again? That shouldn't be possible. Once annihilated, he'd vanish forever. But instead of annihilation, Kai suddenly felt his body grow heavy. Voices echoed around him. Doctors were discussing a patient's condition. "It's a miracle he's even breathing," one said. Then suddenly, one of them noticed. The patient, whose name was Seian, had moved. Excitement filled the room. Someone shouted, "Young master has opened his eyes." Kai had awakened in the body of a young nobleman. Confused about his identity, he looked at the people gathered around his bed. The doctor reassured them that, despite his injuries, his life was no longer in danger. But then, an angry white-haired man grabbed his clothes and attacked him. "You pathetic son. How could you do this without thinking about our feelings?" A young man quickly stopped him, saying, "Father, Seian is still sick." But the father raged on, wondering aloud if his son had ever once thought about his family. Inside Seian's body, Kai interrupted the man's furious rant. "Who are you?" he asked coldly. Everyone froze in shock. Kai repeated his question. "Who are you? And why did you suddenly attack me?" The doctor concluded that Seian had suffered memory loss due to a severe head injury. When Seian's father, Count Shureiton, asked if there was a cure, the doctor replied, "No solution. We can only wait and see if his memory returns naturally." His elder brother, Lucian, asked if there were any other problems. The doctor reassured him that physically Seian's condition was surprisingly good, with no life-threatening injury. In that moment, Kai realized he had been reborn into the body of a man named Seian, and he concluded that the one responsible was none other than the god of death, Shainos. When his brother Lucian came over to ask how he was feeling, Kai replied coldly, "Leave the room and stop asking useless questions." He also told his father and the doctor to leave the room. He complained that their loud voices were giving him a headache and demanded that everyone get out. Faced with this strange behavior, they all decided it was best to let him rest and quietly left. The moment he was alone, Kai summoned Shainos, who instantly popped up right in front of him. Shainos cheerfully asked, "Were you looking for me?" Kai, fuming with anger, confronted him. "What the hell is the meaning of all this?" Shainos calmly replied that he had granted Kai's wish. He explained, "You wished to end your life as a Grim Reaper, and that's exactly what I did." This twisted interpretation made Kai so furious, he actually asked if he could kill him. Then he demanded to know what happened to the original owner of this body. Shainos explained that the boy had died. He elaborated that the boy was supposed to die in an accident. And just as his soul left the body, he inserted Kai's soul into it. Perfect timing. Kai, still not understanding why he was forced into a human body, pressed him for answer. That's when Shainos revealed his true motive, with a sly grin. "If your existence had simply vanished, where's the fun in that?" When Kai asked if he did all this just for fun, Shainos shamelessly admitted, yes. Before disappearing, Shainos sarcastically wished him good luck with his new fun life. Kai shouted, trying to stop him, but Shainos left anyway. Kai was left boiling with rage, while Shainos decided it would be wiser to stay out of sight until things calmed down. Even days later, Kai's anger hadn't cooled, especially since Shainos didn't show up no matter how many times he called. Eventually, Kai decided to cut ties with him completely and go his own way. While living in the mansion, Kai noticed something odd. All the servants trembled in fear whenever they saw him, avoiding eye contact at all costs. From this, he concluded that the body's original owner, Seian, must have been a filthy, abusive man. One day, Kai spotted a small maid, the same girl who often brought him food. She was carrying a bucket of water when she slipped, spilling it everywhere. Her name was Peck. Terrified, she instantly started begging for forgiveness like she was about to be executed. Kai walked over and asked why her face was filled with so much fear. The poor girl screamed in panic at his approach. Flashback time. Count Shureiton, the second son of the Count, was once known for his angelic beauty as a child. But his true face soon revealed itself. Records showed he was unbelievably cruel. At just 11 years old, he burned out a maid's eyes simply because she smiled at him. From then on, countless servants ended up injured, disfigured, or near death at his hands. Sometimes they were beaten so badly they were simply thrown out. Because of this brutality, everyone began calling him the little demon of the Count's house. Back in the present, Peck feared the worst, thinking he might cut off her hands or feet. Instead, Kai calmly asked her to give him her hand. Trembling, she extended it, still begging for mercy. But Kai surprised her. He healed her wounded hands. Then he told her, "This is just first aid. Get it treated properly, or the scars will stay." He didn't stop there. He even pointed out a few loose threads and dust on her clothes, and told her to keep herself clean. Another maid rushed to Peck's side, while Peck, still in shock, ran away. Watching her go, Kai thought she reminded him of Jazid, because of her age and clumsy nature. Later, the maids were gossiping about how strangely young Master Seian had been behaving. One said maybe he had seen the gates of hell and decided to repent. Another sarcastically joked that judging by his demonic temper, perhaps hell itself had kicked him back out. Peck quickly defended him, saying, "Young Master is not demonic at all. He's an angel." She told them how he took care of her when she fell, fixed her appearance, and sometimes even gave her tasty food. According to her, he was kind and wonderful, and the old rumors were all lies. The other maids weren't fully convinced, but they admitted Seian seemed kinder now. After all, how else could Peck still be around, despite her constant mistakes? Kai had overheard everything from a distance, which confirmed to him that the old Seian truly was evil. He decided it was best to stay out of sight, as much as possible, otherwise trouble would find him. After that, he started spending time in the mansion's beautiful, well-maintained garden, admiring the intricate sculptures and neat landscaping. He found a piece of wood in a sunny spot and began carving. The warm and pleasant place felt like the perfect workshop. Remembering Jezid and the love of spring season they once shared, Kai sighed softly. Suddenly, an old gardener appeared, and apologized for forgetting to clean the area. But then he froze, his eyes locked on the statue Kai had just finished. It was a flawless replica of Joseph. The precision and beauty of the statue left the gardener stunned. Who could be such a skilled sculptor? He wondered in disbelief. Kai looked at the statue and whispered with determination that he would never forget Joseph in this new life, whether it turned out to be long or short. In this way, he fulfilled his final promise to him. That evening, Count Shureiton sat in his office, surprised that so many nobles had confirmed their attendance at what was supposed to be a small social gathering. His aide explained that the reason was a rumor. The former Duke Farhan was expected to attend. The Count was astonished and shocked. Later, Lucian informed his brother Kai that guests would soon be arriving at the mansion. He explained it was just a little gathering for some nobles and their children, and their father wanted him to at least greet them. Uncharacteristically, Kai agreed to attend, surprising Lucian, who commented that Seian never liked such events. Kai replied that this time he would attend, so he could decide in the future how to handle such matters. Lucian advised him to take it easy, since he had only recently recovered. Before leaving, Lucian placed a hand on Kai's shoulder and expressed his genuine concern, a warm, unfamiliar sensation for Kai. It almost felt like family. A few days later, the party was held, and the turnout was unexpectedly huge. Count Shureiton welcomed Count Alo, who commented on the size of the crowd. Count Shureiton confirmed that the massive turnout was because the former Duke Farhan was attending, a man personally supported by the emperor. Count Alo further explained that the emperor had entrusted Duke Farhan with the task of selecting the crown princess. Naturally, every noble with a daughter was desperate to attend. Even nobles without daughters showed up, eager to catch the attention of the powerful and influential Duke Farhan. Count Shureiton joked that he hadn't realized the kingdom had so many young ladies, and the atmosphere was buzzing with excitement. During the party, Lucian, the Count's eldest son, approached and exchanged friendly greetings with Count Alo, who praised Lucian's talents in both studies and swordsmanship. With a regretful smile, he said it was a pity he didn't have a daughter to marry off to him. Soon after, another guest came forward to greet Count Shureiton, Viscount Shan. The man was infamous for being just a merchant. A decade ago, who then bought his noble title with immense wealth. Since then, he had expanded his influence ruthlessly, eliminating anyone who got in his way. Count Shureiton disliked him, seeing him as a perfect example of the dangers of money-driven power. The Viscount introduced his son, Horace, to Lucian. Then in a sarcastic tone, he asked Count Shureiton why his second son, Shan, wasn't present at the party. The Count instantly realized that the Viscount knew about Shan's past incident and was trying to provoke him. Before the Count could respond, Lucian quickly replied that Shan would be arriving soon, though inwardly he was wondering why his brother was running late. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Kai, still in Shan's body, was completely lost. He had almost forgotten one odd little quirk about himself. His sense of direction was absolute garbage. After circling the mansion 10 times without finding the ballroom, and with not a single servant in sight to guide him, Kai shrugged and thought, the world won't end, because I'm absent. So, he sat down on the outer stairs and began watching the sunset, a view Jazid had always loved and insisted on seeing with him every evening. Looking at the sky, he remembered the promise he had made to her that he would always remember her just by looking at the sky. At that moment, an elderly man approached and asked why he was sitting there alone. Kai shot back in a sharp tone. Are you old because you've wasted your life asking obvious questions? Clearly, I'm watching the sunset. The man, rather than offended, was impressed by Kai's wit and sharp tongue. He admitted that he was curious, since Kai's perspective on the sunset felt deeper than that of an old man who had lived decades. For a boy of flesh and blood, it was quite strange. Rephrasing his question, the man asked, "Why is a young man sitting here alone in sorrow?" Kai answered bluntly, "I got lost." The man assumed Kai was just a guest, but Kai denied it, shocking him when he revealed his true identity. "I live here. I am the second son." The old man was stunned. The Count Shureiton's own son got lost in his own house. Kai just shrugged, replying casually, "Well, there's no law that says I can't, right?" The old man chuckled, accepting this strange logic with a smile. Then he offered, "All right then, why don't I guide you to the banquet hall? Honestly, I think I know the way better than you do." Kai thanked him and followed. As they walked, the man asked his name. Kai answered, and in return the older man introduced himself. Fitz Farhan. Kai frowned in annoyance. "Great. Another name I've got to remember? The Duke noticed his irritation and teased. You're a bit rude, but honestly, it's kind of refreshing. And you'd better remember my name, because I promise you won't regret knowing me. Meanwhile, Count Shureiton was growing worried inside the banquet hall. Lord Fitz had disappeared on his own. Lucian offered to go look for him since Seian still hadn't shown up, but before he could, his father pointed. Both of them were walking in together. The moment Seian stepped into the hall, Kine in Seian's body knew. Yep, trouble just found him. Count Shureiton's jaw dropped. How in the world did you end up arriving with Lord Fitz? Kai, completely shameless, tossed the blame right back. It's his fault. He's so loud he caused this whole commotion. Count hurried to welcome the Duke, who politely apologized for being late. The Count reassured him, saying everyone had been waiting. Fitz explained smoothly. The delay was my fault. I was busy guiding a little lost puppy. It hit Kai instantly. He was the lost puppy. His eyes widened as he snapped. Hey, you can't use me as your excuse. For the record, when you found me, you were already late. That cheeky reply made Count Shureiton's veins pop. He scolded his son for speaking rudely to Lord Fitz and bowed deeply, offering his sincerest apologies. I clearly failed to raise him properly. But the Duke just laughed. Oh, don't worry. I'm not bothered at all. In fact, it's been since I actually enjoyed myself like this. Thanks to this boy, the path here wasn't boring. Both the Count and Lucian were left blinking in disbelief. Lucian quickly stepped forward, introducing himself formally. Fitz now took a moment to observe both brothers. He recalled the rumors. One was a talented genius, the other a tiny demon who brought nothing but trouble. But seeing this so-called troublemaker, Fitz realized he wasn't exactly as the rumors described. Still, Fitz knew one brief meeting couldn't define a man. His years of experience had taught him to read character through words, actions, and most importantly, the look in their eyes. And in this boy Seian, he saw something immense. Something unusual, a power so vast even he couldn't measure it. Turning back to his old friend, the Count, Fitz smiled. You've raised your son exceptionally well. The Count blinked in shock. Compliments about Lucian were common, but about Seian, practically unheard of. Then the Duke requested a private word with the Count, but before that could happen, in barged Vivant Chick, practically shoving his introduction into Fitz's face. The Duke's response, a frosty dismissal. I've never even heard of that name, and frankly, I doubt any noble family carries it. The Vivant's face turned red with rage. He shot back, perhaps, my lord. You've grown out of touch with current affairs, spending too much time away from politics. Fitz smirked. True enough. The older I get, the less I want to involve myself in politics. Too many arrogant fools, after all. His words hit like daggers, clearly aimed at the Vivant. Enraged, the Vivant's son Horace stepped up. You're rude, he shouted at the Duke. The hall gasped. A mere Viscount's son daring to rebuke Duke Fitz. Fitz's smile vanished. His fury radiated as he released just a fraction of his swordmaster aura. The entire hall froze in fear. Even Lucian, with years of training, could barely withstand the crushing pressure. His chest tightened. Sweat trickled down, and he realized Duke Fitz was a swordmaster. If someone didn't intervene soon, people would start collapsing. But before Lucian could move, Kai, still in Seian's body, casually stepped forward. Not to fight. Nope, he calmly pointed out. By the way, Duke, you've got some grass and hair stuck on your clothes. Just saying, if you're gonna lecture people on etiquette, maybe check that you look presentable first. And with zero hesitation, Kai began dusting off the Duke's clothes, all while sarcastically wondering to himself, how did he even get so dirty just by sitting on grass? The Duke chuckled. Excessive perfection isn't good. Little flaws make people feel at ease. Kai smirked. Oh, so you're saying filth equals friendliness? That jab made Horace explode with anger. You scoundrel, he shouted at Kai. But before things got out of hand, Fitz asked coolly, tell me, boy, do you really want to go head-to-head with me? Kai leaned back, expression calm, as ever. Honestly, no problem. But first, Kai added coolly, the Duke should wash his hands. Count Shureiton nearly fainted from terror at his son's outrageous behavior. Meanwhile, Viscount Shan hastily forced his son Horace to bow and dragged him out of the hall. As they left, Duke Fitz remarked, that Horace boy glared at you with a murderous look. Kai smirked. Or maybe your eyesight's going bad, old man. Count and Lucian were left utterly stunned. The Count whispered, Seian seems completely different. The Duke then straightened, his tone turning serious again. He asked the Count for a private place to talk. As the two men walked away, Lucian called his brother over. With genuine concern, he asked, Are you all right? After all, you just faced the aura of a swordmaster. Kai reassured him simply, For now I'm fine. That plain reply deeply moved Lucian. His chest swelled with joy because, for the first time in ages, his younger brother had spoken to him normally, without hatred or disdain. Memories flooded back. Seian was his most precious treasure, the last gift from their mother. As children, Lucian had always wanted to be close to him. But Seian's inferiority complex had twisted his personality, and the hatred in his eyes had grown year by year. Eventually, Lucian stopped trying. But now, for the first time in so long, he felt comfortable beside his brother. The warmth almost made him grateful for Seian's memory loss. So when Kai, in Seian's body, announced that he was going back to his room, Lucian's heart sank. Is he avoiding me again? Was this fragile hope just an illusion? But then Kai stopped. He grabbed Lucian's wrist, apologized, and admitted sheepishly, I don't actually know the way to my room. Could you accompany me? Just this once? It was the very first time his brother had asked him for anything. Lucian's heart soared. Of course, he agreed instantly, overflowing with joy. Meanwhile, in a private room, Duke Fitz finally revealed the real reason for his visit. He had come to choose someone to stay at the Crown Prince's side. The Count's mind jumped immediately. You mean the Crown Princess? The Duke shook his head. No, not a wife. A friend. He explained that Prince Eid was one of the strongest candidates to inherit the throne. He had everything: skills in swordsmanship, brilliant academic ability, but one glaring flaw: his fiery temper. He couldn't control his rage, lashing out even to the point of killing someone for careless words. That, said Fitz, is why I advised His Majesty to let the prince have a companion, someone who could calm him down, especially since he refuses to form personal bonds on his own. At last, Count Shureiton understood why the Duke was here. Fitz admitted that at first he thought Lucian, with his calm and steady personality, would be perfect. But soon he realized it was the wrong choice. With Lucian's ice-cold personality and the prince's fiery temper, the Duke explained, the two would clash instead of balance each other. One of them might get seriously hurt. The Count agreed. Everyone knew Lucian would never back down from his principles, even with a sword at his throat. That made the pairing dangerous indeed. So Fitz continued, I have chosen someone else, another of your sons. The Count froze in horror. You don't mean? The Duke nodded. Yes, Kian. The Count immediately refused. Flat out, no hesitation. Impossible. Kian is unstable, filled with flaws. A single mistake from him could endanger the entire family. Desperate to persuade the Duke, the Count even revealed a dangerous secret. Kian recently had an accident. He lost his memory. He suffers from amnesia. The revelation shocked Fitz. But instead of turning him away, it only deepened his admiration. How strange, he thought, that a boy with amnesia was so calm and composed, rather than frightened or agitated. Kian's eyes were starry and deep, convincing him that his judgment was not mistaken. This boy, Fitz declared, is a true gem. He told the Count, I see no problem with his memory loss. In fact, I believe I've made an excellent choice. Think it over, my friend. I like this boy very much. Later, Count Shureiton called both Lucian and Kai in Seian's body and explained what the Duke had discussed. The Duke had come looking for a suitable friend for Prince Eid. Kai inwardly scoffed. Seriously, a prince needs someone to go friend shopping for him. When Lucian asked why their father was telling them this, the Count revealed the bombshell. The Duke wants Seian to take on this task. Both Kai and Lucian were utterly shocked. Kai's first thought, this old Duke has officially gone senile. Meanwhile, Lucian flatly refused. Count tried to persuade him, saying this was for the family's benefit. But Lucian protested, refusing again, reminding him that Prince Eid was famous for his fiery temper and didn't tolerate even the tiniest mistake. So how on earth can you send an amnesia boy to him? Lucian argued. The Count admitted that at first he himself was hesitant, but after thinking it through, he changed his mind, believing the Duke surely had his reasons for choosing Seian. Lucian then offered to go in his brother's place, but his father refused. And in the middle of this heated argument, Kai suddenly interrupted them, announcing boldly that he agreed to go. His father was shocked. "Wait, you're serious?" he asked. Kai justified his decision, saying this task didn't really sound that difficult. "All I have to do is meet the prince sometimes, chat a little. Doesn't sound like rocket science to me." Both Lucian and his father tried to warn him, telling him this could be dangerous, that even a tiny mistake could cost him his life. But Kai insisted on his position. He said, "Since I've always been a nuisance to the family and my nickname is literally Little Demon, this is finally a good chance for me to do something useful." Then he left the room, leaving behind a stunned father who began wondering if maybe, just maybe, his son really had changed. A few days later, Kai arrived at the Imperial Palace. He was amazed at the sheer size of the place. Then he saw Prince Eid practicing his swordsmanship. Kai decided not to interrupt and just waited quietly nearby. But under the warm sun, he soon dozed off. He was woken up by the prince's bold, commanding voice. "You've got guts sleeping in the prince's training ground." Kai casually asked him who he was, then tried to leave, but the prince stopped him. The prince asked Kai if he wanted a friend. To this, Kai bluntly replied, "Nah, I'll just leave and tell everyone you kicked me out. Don't need a friend like that." This reply made the prince furious. He pulled out his sword and pressed it against Kai's neck, warning him, "If you ever turn your back on me without permission again, I'll kill you." But Kai stayed unfazed by the threat. Calmly, he told the prince to let go of his arm because he didn't want to touch sweaty hands. The prince narrowed his eyes. "Are you daring to give me orders?" Kai answered, "It's just a request, not an order." The prince was surprised by this boy's total lack of fear of death. He asked again, "Who are you?" Kai introduced himself. Count Shureiton. The prince remembered that the Shureiton family was known for their integrity and spotless reputation. He asked why Kai was there, and Kai explained that some old man sent him. The prince immediately realized he was talking about Duke Fitz. Then Kai bluntly told the prince that the Duke had sent him to be his friend, but added that he honestly didn't think the prince needed any friend, so he was about to leave. Again, the prince stopped him, reminding him of his earlier threat. Kai calmly asked, "So are you actually planning to kill me?" The prince noticed how lightly Kai took the idea of death. Finally, the prince decided he didn't need a friend, but since sending back someone Duke Fitz had chosen would be improper, he ordered Kai to follow him. He led Kai to the library. Kai didn't object about the books. In fact, he found the place comfortable, since he wasn't here on some stiff, official visit. The prince was surprised when Kai sat far away from him and simply started reading a book. In reality, the prince was observing him, expecting the boy to act like the other noble sons, flattering him to win his favor. He thought, maybe this disregard was just a strategy to grab his attention. But 3 full hours passed, and Kai didn't lift his eyes from his book even once, as if he had completely forgotten the prince's existence. The prince was insulted. This was the first time anyone had shown him such total disregard, so he decided to test him, to see how long Kai could sit in silence. Thus began a silent battle of wills between the two. After a while, the prince stuck his foot out, causing a servant carrying tea to trip and almost fall. But before the tray could crash to the ground, Kai used a mysterious invisible power to stop him, restoring his balance without anyone noticing. Hey everyone, did you enjoy this video? Do you want to see the next part? If yes, make sure to subscribe if you're new, hit the like button, and drop a comment saying next part. If we get 4 comments within 12 hours, I'll release the next 40-minute video right away.